Our next speaker is somewhat unplanned because the one we're going to have in the evening, Sasa Lekovic, who is the CTO of Telecom Serbia, is somewhere still in the skies flying, so he may not be able to make it on time. As a result, we're now having Alcatel-Lucent's Olivier Rits, who is the head of M2M for the EMEA, and he'll be coming shortly and making a presentation. But very briefly before that, I know some of you were not here yesterday, and some of you may have just come again afterwards, or missed the announcement yesterday. A lot of people have come to us asking for the slides to be given to them on Monday or Tuesday. What we can do is, individually, if some of you need them urgently, just email me on that email over there, and I will make sure that we send you the slides ASAP on Monday. Other than that, all the slides will be available on Monday the 7th of May on the M2M magazine, but not available to public. You will receive an email from us giving you your password so you can access all the slides and download them. And all the videos, everything you've seen here is recorded and will also be made online in about 2 weeks' time on May 14th. And again, for that, you'll receive an email from us with a password so you can go online and view all the videos as much as you'd like to. Any questions, any concerns, please come back to me. I've got my numbers and emails over there. And now I'd like to invite Olivier Rits from Alcatel-Lucent. Please could you give him a very warm welcome. Thank you.
How do I switch slides?
Sorry?
For switching the slides, is this one? Okay.
Yep.
Oh. Hi. Yeah, this was unexpected. They asked me two hours ago to do this. So I will not be giving you the usual slides because my PC broke down 2 weeks ago. Hoped would I have 10 million devices in my PC to detect that. But so anyway, I had to make slides in two hours. That was not easy. And then after that, I had to come up with a title. So I thought machine to machine would be a very good title. So let's start. These are my slides. And basically, I thought about, my God, what am I going to tell? So I'm just going to ask 5 questions and try to give an answer to those. So the first one is, what is machine to machine? I've drawn there 2 machines looking at each other. Basically, machine to machine is a bit of an awkward naming because most of the applications out there, it's machine to server. Machines are not talking directly to each other. Don't know yet what the impact of that is, but it's something to think about. So what is it? There's no clear definition. There's many definitions that go along from machine to machine. Then you have the IoT concept as well. So it's very confusing sometimes. How we from Alcatel-Lucent interpret it, first of all, it's about a machine. And with a machine, we don't mean a mobile handset, a tablet, or a PC. This again can be confusing because for some a Kindle will be machine to machine. For other organizations, a Kindle will not be machine to machine. Next to that, it's also about reusing the available network of the telcos. Because if we don't take that into the definition, then machine to machine is pretty old. If you look at SCADA systems, it's actually machine to machine, but not using the usual telco networks. Next to that, it's excluding pure connectivity services. So the idea about machine to machine is that you create another service that uses the connectivity, but it's not about the connectivity itself. This has an impact on the way that telcos will have to go into this business. I will come back to that later. And very important on this one, it's been said before, it's also our take on this, it starts with the end application. The end application is actually driving the business case. You need to understand that in order to be successful in machine to machine. Having said that, the word ecosystem has been mentioned already a lot of times today. I will mention it as well. But very important on that one is that it's got to be an end-to-end managed service, because machine to machine is all about if the service is down, somebody's losing money. So you need an end-to-end managed service. Otherwise, it's more like over-the-top, nice things to have, but if it goes down, you don't really lose money. So we're focusing on the things that are business critical. What's the impact for us as Alcatel-Lucent? We are targeting the verticals. We're also targeting the operators. And having to talk with the operators, that's not easy because you will have different departments that will be involved in similar projects. If you look at automotive, there will be a dedicated machine-to-machine team, but there will also be a team from consumer infotainment. It's crossing those departments there. Same for e-health, you could say the same. So for us, it's not always easy to find out who we need to talk to and who will drive the project. So then we go to the next question. I'm going pretty fast through this because I also need to catch a train. Normally I was leaving now, but okay, here I am. So why is machine-to-machine, why is all the hype now around machine-to-machine? If you look at it from a telco perspective, it doesn't make any sense. It's lower revenue per SIM card at an increased complexity. Why now? First of all, of course, the business is driven by a decreasing cost of device, and device means chip, the device itself. It's also the wireless module. Decreasing connectivity cost. Also, if you look in Europe, the roaming regulations that's going to be put in place is also going to have a major impact on that. Of course, also the success of the web services, machine-to-machine is combining all that. But there's, from a telco perspective, I think also another important driver, which is that if you look at the normal consumer business today, in Europe and in the US, it's flattening out. We get penetration rates that are at their max, and it will be very difficult to actually grow that business. Machine-to-machine is a way out for the telco operators to actually start growing their revenue again. It's a major growth opportunity. So that being said, there's a lot of telcos that are looking now at machine-to-machine because they see their normal revenue streams flattening out, but it's not easy. And there's 2 points I want to mention there. First of all, it's been mentioned in the panel discussion just before lunch on the embedded SIM. Part of machine-to-machine is also about, it's a lower revenue per SIM, but it's at an increased margin because you have a lower customer acquisition. There's a nice current analysis paper on that one. But basically, one of the things that makes it more profitable from a margin point of view is also the churn. The churn is much lower compared to consumer business. So I would like to stress towards the telco operators that if you go for an embedded SIM, if you allow that, then there should be an additional cost for the end user because your cost will go up as well. This is an important one to take into account. So that I think is also the reason why a lot of operators that have historically seen not really been involved in machine-to-machine are starting to look at it now, but it's not as easy as it is. It's not just a decision like, now we're doing machine-to-machine. It's complicated, and as said before, why is machine-to-machine so different compared to all the usual business that telcos are doing? It's about the ecosystem. So if you look at the history from telcos, they're used to bringing end-to-end services. Voice, it's an end-to-end service. They didn't make the phone, but at least all the other parts of the value chain they owned. If you look at the internet, they don't own the internet, but they actually own the complete stack of from accessing from your PC towards the internet. They own the complete chain there. Things got a bit difficult with IPTV kind of services because there you saw that operators are not really used to working together with ecosystems, with partners, because there's a big fight. There was a big fight ongoing between the telcos and the content providers, and it still is some kind of a friction there because telco providers want to provide their own content, so it's a bit of a fight there as well. Also, in the early days of the internet, telcos tried to provide a walled garden wall. And now with machine-to-machine, I think the ones that are going to be successful is indeed the ones that do realize that the ecosystem is very fragmented, that the market is very fragmented, and that you need to open up. Now, what does this imply? This ecosystem and this fragmentation of the market. First of all, you need to provide as a telco a horizontal platform. It's been mentioned before. It's the way to assess all the different verticals, but it's also the way to drive down costs. Secondly, open business models. You need to be open to any kind of business models. People would like to know what is the business model for machine-to-machine. There is no the business model. There will be a lot of them. Maybe in the future that will straighten out into some, but at least today there are a lot that exists out there in the market, so you need to be open on that one. Standardization is also a very important one. Having said that, integration and automation is very important, because what you see here is that the telco is not providing one end-to-end service, it's part of a bigger service. So everything it's doing, it needs to be automated. They need to automate their process because it's integrated into a business process of their customer. And if you look across the ecosystem, there's a need for an end-to-end managed service. So every part of the service got to be managed, because if one part is not managed, it will go down at a certain time, and who will pay the bill at that time? Because somebody will lose money for that. So what segments are hot? Automation, energy, smart metering, e-health. It's been mentioned before. Now I'm doing business development for machine-to-machine for Alcatel-Lucent in the EMEA region, which means I also have to realize a number this year. And if I only bet on those, then it's going to be a poor year for me this time. Because I think these are these markets we need to be involved in? Yes, they're very hot. It's going to be a big market, but it's not going to generate any revenue or substantial revenue this year. So what do we see as markets that are hot? It's in-home services and building automation services. That's the one that we see are really taking uptake in the market this year. So, next to that, of course, smart cities. For us, smart cities as a concept is an umbrella of many different machine-to-machine applications being implemented out there. So, then I come to the last part of my slides. I think my company would fire me if I would not mention what we are doing. So what is Alcatel-Lucent doing in machine-to-machine? There's a lot of things that we are already doing. Of course, connectivity part, we are a vendor that provides network gear to the telco operators. Is this of importance to the machine-to-machine application providers? In part, yes, because it's all about flexibility. So if you look at flexibility, I mean flexibility in the core, flexibility in the access. It's about coverage. So we are providing telcos with very flexible solutions for the network access through light radio, through Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi might be something odd, but I believe Wi-Fi will have its role in machine-to-machine. The only difficulty is a machine cannot log on to a Wi-Fi network. So we have means to do that automatically using the SIM card. Network core, so everything that goes from HLR, GGSM, that's the first building blocks that operators will implement dedicated for machine-to-machine to give them that flexibility and special features that you need for machine-to-machine. It's also a big question about are we going to deploy 2G, 3G or 4G? Which is the one that we're going to bet on for machine-to-machine? We're also working on that one to have a very flexible migration plan from 2G to 3G to 4G. We're also an integrator, so we're doing integration services end-to-end. We work with a lot of verticals already, so we have that experience. We have Bell Labs, which is an incredible institute for doing research and development. Light radio came out of Bell Labs. The next things that we are working on is going to be very thrilling. Fortunately, I cannot yet disclose that. Next to that, we have a big marketing organization that's doing customer insights, which give us a lot of insight into how these markets work and what do end customers want, because that's indeed a lot of these machine-to-machine services. You need to be able to get the customer in that story. He needs to see the value for that. If he doesn't see the value, there will be no uptake. So it's also an important one. We've done a lot of customer insights already with a focus on the smart city story in general. But the thing I would like to focus on for the next couple of slides is machine-to-machine management tools. I've mentioned it before. If you have this ecosystem, there's always questions around end-to-end manageability of the service. So let me start with saying it's very short slide. So the view is also that if you look at it, telcos today, they have a horizontal platform in the form of a network. They're actually it's a horizontal platform which they are using for vertical applications. They can do the same for other types of services, value-added services. So it's been mentioned before. I will come back to that. How do you do that? Because it's not easy to do value-added service. You don't just go like device management. We also do device management. You cannot just say, here is device management, please buy it from me. The end-to-end or the machine-to-machine service provider, he will not just simply buy it. You need to push or trigger certain things at this player to actually be able to sell this kind of value-added services. So this is very short overview of our solution. I've lost all my marketing slides when my PC crashed, so I've made this one. I need to recuperate my data as soon as possible. But anyway, here we go. So we have a couple of basic managers, and it goes from managing the device, managing the application, managing the network, managing how you set up a connection between a backend server and an application out there. Also, it's not only about direct devices, it is about direct devices, but also about gateway devices and the devices behind that gateway. How are you going to make a connection to those? How are you going to manage those? This is all questions that we can answer with these basic building blocks. And on top of that, we have an integration and orchestration layer, which actually means that you could define machine-to-machine workflows. So if you have a certain workflow, you can implement it in this tool, and possibly you can reuse it later on. If you have a new process, you don't need to build the process all over again. You could reuse certain blocks. I think reusability in such a fragmented market is a very important asset. So, having said that, value-added services, this is the kind of value-added service that we provide. How are we able to sell this or to the verticals? It's by probing them, by really asking them about concrete use cases. For example, who is going to call the customer in case of a problem? Who will be the first line of technical support? Once you have done that, who will be the next line of customer support? How will you align the technical support call that has been done between the different organizations, because it's always a multi-party place. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to provide a firmware upgrade for a device? Have you thought about the impact it will have on the network, also for the telco? If you have the big file for a firmware, for example, you need to download it. Just imagine that a bulk operation is being done for smart metering just to provide a firmware update. This could mean it could deteriorate the network of the telco. So the telco has an interest in managing that, but also the application provider. So we have tools to manage that, to break up the firmware into different pieces and send it over the network when it's least congested. Next to that, if you have a gateway, if you have devices that can run multiple applications, they also will have different firmware. How will you make sure that you provide the right application on the right device? It's going to run in the right way. So we can correlate the capabilities of a device, the firmware of the device, towards applications and what is needed. Also about setting up a session, a connection session. How is the signaling going to impact the network? I think there was a nice use case with the iPhone, where there was one application that was constantly calling for an air channel in the radio access network. If this happens for a machine-to-machine application, it will have the same effect on the network of the telcos. And up to today, telcos are not paid for the signaling that they provide, only for the data. So from a telco point of view, they also need to be able to manage that. But it's not only about making sure that it works fine. You could also give this as an additional asset to your customer, because doing that, you can give him a view on how his device is behaving, where his device is making connections, how much signaling it's using, how much data it's using, which application is setting up a lot of connections. So you could provide that visibility to your end customer, which they would very much like to pay for. So this is in very short because I need to catch my train. So this is an example of a cross-channel customer experience where it's very important to keep the same context. If one customer, machine-to-machine customer, is calling you and you need to hand over the call to another party, how do you make sure he doesn't need to go through the same process all over again? So it's this kind of questions that helps sell value-added services to these kind of players. So what's our approach? We've been in this market of managing devices, networks, applications for a long time. We're already managing a lot of DSLs, we are already managing PCs, we are managing set-top boxes. So we have a lot of experience in managing devices. We are managing mobile handsets. So our approach to that is we have a lot of experience already in that. Device management for machine-to-machine is quite new. We think we're very well positioned in offering those kind of services. Next to that, what's our added value? We are very scalable. Already today we have 20 million devices being managed on a single device. We can provide hosted services for a pay-as-you-grow model as well. We have a very open approach. We promote certain standards. Of course, we work in all standardization bodies, but we are open to proprietary solutions because our integration platform allows us to flexibly define data sources so that we can talk the right protocol and get the data in the right format out of a device. And next to that, we believe in convergence. The platforms that we use today, it's already being used for mobile, for fixed. So you need to have a solution that can combine both. Because I think in the fixed world, in-home services, operators do have a lot of value there. There's always a risk of over-the-top players trying to play that field as well. But the operational team, the experience that you have managing a customer, doing that technical support, it's a very important asset that you need to monetize in these kind of applications. So, I think that was it. Very short, 2 hours preparation, 15 minutes talk. So I think I can have 5 minutes for questions, but then I really need to rush out.
Thank you very much, Olivier. Any questions for Olivier? Please raise your hand. There's a gentleman there in the middle, please. Your name and company, sir.
Hi, my name is Dave Lisinski from Texas Instruments. You started out your presentation with talking about the difference between machine-to-machine and Internet of Things, but I'm not sure I actually caught the point there.
I'm not saying there is a difference. I just don't get the definitions. I don't think there's a single definition for machine-to-machine. I don't think there's a single definition for the IoT. So if you talk to all these people in the room, everybody will have his own interpretation of Internet of Things, of machine-to-machine. That being said, I think you need to make a clear distinction between business critical machine-to-machine and stuff that can be done over the top. And I don't know if telcos need to play in things that can be done over the top, because that means it's not business critical. If the service goes down and you don't lose money, then it's going to be difficult for telco to really play its key assets. I think that's a clear distinction that we are making from Alcatel-Lucent. I hope that answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.